I'm Britton LaRue, and this is Moon to Moon. Moon to Moon is a space to consider, celebrate, and share the ways we come home to ourselves, anchor through change, and uncover our power. 1 month, one phase, one loving step at a time. Hello, Moon to Moon. It's Friday the 13th, Venus's big day, and I am sitting inside the excitement of year 1 and year 2 opening for enrollment. I'm really happy to say that I slept really well last night. Often on the nights before enrollment opens, I just have a really hard time sleeping. It's kind of like this mix of Christmas Eve, like anticipation with, I think, fear. I think that I love promo. I'm exhilarated by promo. The primary reason I think promo is like the coolest thing is because that's when I'm the most close to the source of what's trying to come through. If you think about emergence, to me, it's got a kind of fountain or a volcano quality. Maybe everybody's creative processes have a different visual. But for me, it feels like this like deep thing is like down within me that is like coming up through me and like then out my mouth and out my energy field. And of course, I'm in that whenever I'm serving the container while I'm holding the container. But the reason I can serve it with clarity is because in the promo, I got so close to it. I was like sitting inside of it, like the heart of it, And this is a whole journey for me always. Like, approaching it can feel scary because it's chaotic. It's the chaos of it is the chaos of creativity. This feels very strength, Leo, lust card. Lust is the card for strength in the Thoth deck. And it's very erotic because of the wildness. And so there's always a part of me that's like kind of tiptoeing around like, yeah, I'll just do it like last year. Or like, yeah, I already know what this is. And then another part of me is like, we haven't gone in yet. And so I just love promo because of like that erotic quality, which is me in my own process, But there's another aspect of promo, which is the aspect of like evidence. Once the doors open, you get evidence of people coming, people saying yes. And that's so high sensation. It's like, oh my gosh, people are coming. And like different parts of you wake up in the promo process that maybe weren't involved when you were just creating, and they start to be like wanting to manage the analytics and like study the data and make predictions. And it's just more high sensation because more parts of me are activated, I think, once the doors open. And it's not just as much of a purely creative experience. So sometimes I don't sleep as well in promo. And sometimes I felt sad about that. Like, I love promo so much, but I don't sleep as well, But not to shame it, just to be honest. Like, some parts of me are like, they struggle to go to sleep, I think. They struggle to like rest. And last night it was one of those nights where I slept all the way through. It's really funny because I had a dream about Meghan Markle. Oh my God. Meghan Markle was like asking me about Emergence Astrology. This is so embarrassing to name, but like, I don't even have like a thing with Meghan Markle. I mean, I guess I do. I guess who doesn't? She went to Northwestern, which is where I went. And I am very captivated at like who is this person who's come in and done this with the royal family? Like, wow, whatever you think about her, like, that's impressive. Wow. And I do think she's completely gorgeous. Not like a fan though, I'm not buying your jam. No shame if you do. But it's just so funny who shows up in your dreams, Like, oh, I guess I have kind of a thing for Meghan Markle. Wow, maybe I'm seeing the future, Maybe I'm seeing the future. Maybe you're going to see me on whatever her podcast is. Okay, I'm going to take us back. Where were we? So I slept well. Here we are. It's Friday. This episode will be coming out Monday for a conversation that I had on Wednesday, the 11th, I suppose that was. We were very much all in a post-full moon buzz in the conversation you're about to hear. So the topic is a topic that many parts of me were like listening, really can't wait to have this conversation, because the topic was, how would you define emergence astrology and how is it different for you from other astrologies? And this is something that I'm very curious to hear about, because I share regularly that I know that any definitions I have about emergence astrology are, one, emergent to the moment I'm in, which means that also always partial. Like, anytime I could possibly try to define emergence astrology, like, most of it is slipping through my fingers because I can only see it partially, which is one of my big teachings in astrology, is that we can never see our charts all at once. We can't see a sign all at once. We can't see a planet all at once. We can't see astrology all at once. We only ever relate to astrology partially, even when we're taking it down to like the smallest piece. We're still only seeing that partially. So there's no way to like say everything, because it's only emergent and partial to the moment that you're in based on what's here in your life right now. And it's also very dependent on the person then, right? So like, I can have an idea about what it means, but that is only just me. And so it was very exciting to have these individuals come in. And there's also a fourth individual who submitted a written exploration to share on like what it's currently meaning for them, all of us knowing, because these are my real emergence astrology, my the people that I'm doing this with. They're holding the truth that anything that they say here is like completely partial and emergent to the moment. And we're just together yearning to speak what's true and what's alive what is here right now. And that is what we do in Emergence Astrology. And this particular, the individuals that you've been hearing speak these last few episodes, 185, 186, and now here 187, are classmates. You know, they may not have been in the same groups, but they now share the field. Like, they know what the frequency is. And if you've been in some of my other containers, like the Magician's Table, you know what I mean in terms of like that sense of being in a frequency of a place, and how as soon as you get into the frequency together, like the frequency starts to hold the room, and now everyone's speaking from that frequency. And y'all know that doesn't mean I have to be there. Like, it's not a Britain contingent experience. And I on purpose have classrooms within a lot of my containers that don't have me in them, so that you can see that for yourself and get that evidence. It's not about me, Britain, right? Because it's really important for me in any kind of space where we are emphasizing your personal voice, and we're emphasizing your leadership, and we're emphasizing your authority, that I create a structure around that helps to make clear that it's not coming from Britain, this magic that you're experiencing. I am the steward, and I've been saying lately, the siren. I really like the way that feels, because it honors the fact that there is something in my voice. There is something in my voice that is like a call, you know? But it's really not about me. It's like calling your attention towards an experience that I would say your soul is guiding you to. It's not necessarily logical. But at some point along the way, I was just mentoring with someone this week, and we were talking about how as I support individuals with a voice, which I see now is really the primary thing that I'm doing, both the internal, hearing the inner voice, and then speaking the voice that enters the world. So I maybe have never said that fully, and there I just did. What I see has to happen is like participants, students come into my spaces, and there's like a journey around realizing that it's not about Brit and LaRue, it's about their own voice. And then this process of really fortifying and anchoring into that over time, and then sharing that voice with others and receiving others' voices in their system, and like the exchange of these voices happening. And there's like a whole adventure around watching how the voice curriculum shifts depending on where you are in the process of the adventure, you know? And sometimes part of the adventure is that my voice needs to be muted. Like, my voice needs to get out of your space. My voice needs to be unsubscribed from. And I think that that's part of the process. Like, sometimes we have to mute people who previously like took on a really big aura in our lives, you know? And then you can come back to them when you feel more like your relationship to that mentor's aura has shifted, so that you feel strong again in your voice to go learn with them again, you know? And so there's like a whole journey with our voices that I think is just so beautiful and fascinating and magical. And it's just the coolest to be like a facilitator and a guide for these processes of autonomy and voice, but it's also voice sharing. It's both at the same time. Yes, so in this episode, you are going to be hearing from 4 different voices, 1 written, 3 live, talking about what emergence astrology feels like to them and how it's distinct from other astrologies. And so if you're interested in this conversation, I know that you will enjoy it. I've got some really wise, really funny, really creative, really bright human beings that come to my spaces. You know this if you've enrolled in any of them, that the human beings that I attract are just incredible. And you may not realize it at the beginning, but over time you begin to realize that you come to them to meet these other people, and then they become humans that are important to your life and to your pathway, and may even become your dear friends and collaborators. So it's a vivacious, very profound, heart-led, and also intellectually fascinating and charming conversation, as we find in spaces like Emergence Astrology Year 1, once we get to the Spring Salon together and we begin to banter. It's very bantering energy. I love it. All right, so let me move into sharing. Let me first share it from Sydney, who submitted a written exploration. I gave everyone the opportunity to submit a written exploration if, coming on a podcast just wasn't going to work out for you. So thank you, Sydney. I'm excited to share this. In Sydney's words, when I engage with emergence astrology, I find myself deeper in my body, down beneath the surface parts that want to know, to fix, to figure myself out, to a space that feels quiet, a deep and wide basin. I sense a subtle shift in my internal orientation, like I'm turning towards something far beyond my human self. I feel vast, immense, unfathomably so. Here I notice the edges of my mind start to soften, blur, stretch. I feel many parts of me expand, like my being is spreading out and unfurling to match the size, like water filling a container. To me, emergence astrology is an invisible network of support. It feels generous. It offers a rhythm to attune to, a pulse that keeps me close to center. It feels like choosing to enter a flow, like stepping down and sinking into a winding river that has no visible banks or destination. I can't see where I'm going. Yet I sense the presence of invisible hands oh, Sydney. Oh. I can't see where I'm going, yet I sense the presence of invisible hands gently guiding and shaping me as I bounce and groove along. Although challenging and uncomfortable at times, there is an effortless quality to this flow, perhaps because my animal body already knows the language of patterns, cycles, and the elements. This style of astrology asks me to listen, to soften and open, to receive and notice with many parts of my being. Whole body listening. It feels like setting down the part of me that wants to fill with information as protection, like I'm taking off a layer of armor, There is no need to memorize when you're in the present moment experiencing. Emergence astrology encourages personal growth, not in a prescriptive or fixing way, more so an inevitable unfolding as you work with the signs and planets. Within the realm of emergence astrology, life feels wildly expansive and vast, yet tethered to earth and held. Rooted and alive, in this space, everything feels possible. The human experience a little easier. What a gift. Thank you. Sydni Baumgart. Oh gosh, Sydni. Yeah, that's how it feels to me too. That business about the network of support in the hands, like, that's what it feels like to me too. And it just reminds me of the cancer transmission I did last year, and the opening transmission. I actually felt so many beings above my head looking down to come through me. Almost like I was at the bottom of a tunnel and they were at the top looking down at me. And they were so excited. What it feels like is they're so excited to speak to you through me. And then when they were showing me Cancer, I was so deeply seeing these river networks made of all kinds of ancestors, just wanting us to see how supported and loved, and there they are, just so there, guiding us. It was so profound because I had sensed it all along, and I had sensed it between humans, it doesn't feel like a laptop screen, it feels like a whole world of interconnection. And, going back to my first astrology class, charting your course in 2020, it's we're in a river together. There's a thing connecting us. And I read that raw. I hadn't read it. So it's very moving that comes through, because it feels to me especially once I found that the true voice that I talked about in episode 183 about the first 18 months of my practice, and that I divided it there because I found this new practice, this new offering called the Medicine of Autumn. And that was when it started to be this thing where I would feel myself when I was going to speak the signs, especially the signs. It was I could feel myself do this kind of like drop back into receptivity. And then like this voice is like coming out like this. It's just like reality is like altered and I'm in the voice. And it's like this voice activation that is being guided. And then it like closes. And then we can go back to like normal talking. And my desire since that offer has been to be brave enough to create an astrology container that just felt like sitting back and like letting something happen. And that was my challenge to myself as the Aries rising that I am, 3 degrees ascendant. What if I could create a container like that, you know? So this offering has been my desire to, you know, really sit back into the voice, but then allow it to go do its thing through you. The Hermitage is that process. And then the coming together in the spring is like 9 months of our bodies being somatically shifted through that voice, which is not really me, even though it is me, because I see myself as like a carrier or like a vessel or a channel for this other thing. These hands that you speak of, and we just like follow it, let it take us. Yeah. Oh, thank you so much for that, Sydney. All right, y'all. I'm going to read the bios of the 3 participants who you're about to hear from. I'm going to read them in the order that I have them right here. Amanda Caswell is seeking just the right name for that thing on the tip of your tongue. She works as a brand namer, a tarot reader, and a personal coach steeped in playfulness and mindfulness. Find out more at amandacaswell.com, on Substack at amandacaswell.substack.com, or on IG and Threads at _AmandaCaswell_. Jamie Ridler is an artist, a writer, and a newly minted DJ. She's the founder of the School of Creative Magic and has been coaching aspiring, emerging, and established artists for over 20 years with a special gift for working with highly sensitive souls. Her methodology, the Studio Way, helps creatives find the clarity, courage, and confidence to fully embrace themselves as artists, create a life they love, and make what is uniquely theirs to bring into this world. You will often find her tucked away in her studio, journaling, dancing, and pulling tarot cards while surrounded by her 3 feline familiars. And you can find Jamie through her links at theschoolofcreativemagic.com and Instagram at Starshine. Everything will be in the show notes. She mentions a dance event that she's got upcoming, and there's a link to learn about that. Seeding stories through reverent speech and deep listening, we are careening towards realizations of fullness. We build our souls, we are not born with them. Are you ready to trust the unknown stories you have held back for so long? Come and see me. My books are open. Patrick Allen, Astrology, Tarot, and Mythic Reverie. Patrick's Instagram handle is Third House Topics, and his email is also here as well in the show notes. Thank you, Patrick. Thank you, Jamie. Thank you, Amanda. What fun we had. Listeners, inviting you to enjoy. Welcome to Moon, Amanda, Jamie, and Patrick. Glad to have you here.
Oh, it's so good to be here.
Yay!
Well, let's begin with intros. I'd love for you to share with listeners your name, pronouns, where you're calling in from, a little bit about your chart that feels alive to share today, and then how we connected. How do you remember connecting with me or with Emergence Astrology? Um, if you remember the year, I always think that's really interesting too. Yeah, you want to start, Amanda?
Yeah, my name is Amanda Caswell. The pronouns I use are she, her. Um, I'm calling from Kitchener-Waterloo, which is in Ontario in Canada. And things about me, I am a Leo sun, and it feels like it comes through very strong. I'm also an Aries moon and a Libra rising. Um, Yeah, and I'm feeling into where this conversation's happening with Sagittarius full moon, so it feels like my Saturn and Uranus in Sagittarius are like firing on all cylinders. Um, and I feel like I first came to your work, Britton. Actually, a friend of mine introduced me to it probably like last March, so March 2024. Her name is or Hargel. She's a beautiful art therapist. And she was like, I feel like this astrologer is going to be like right up your alley. And I think you were promoting the Magician's Table at the time. And I was like, oh shit, that sounds rad. um, but it wasn't the right timing. I had said yes to this like big corporate project for the money that took over my life for a while. And when it ended in June, you were promoting Emergence Astrology. And I was like, well, let's take this corporate money and put it in something I really love. So that's how I came into being in Emergence Astrology. I think I also said yes to Underdog to Diva around the same time. So it was very like a short period of like finding your work and being like, oh, I'm in. You're talking about this in a way that just really resonates with me. Yeah, so that's how I came to be sitting here.
That's incredible because I know who you mean, but I think we only know each other as like Instagram likers of things.
hmm Totally.
Instagram can be a powerful place that way, so thank you.
hmm
Hmm. Yeah.
Okay, I'm Jamie Ridler, and I my pronouns are she, her. I'm in Toronto, so just a quick ride to Amanda's. And in fact, we're having coffee soon, and I'm so looking forward to that. It's going to be amazing. Let's see. I have a Sagittarius sun, which I think really manifests itself as being a lifelong learner, which I think is an underrated aspect of Sagittarius, and I really own that one. I'm a Virgo rising, which I think leads to people calling me the most grounded woo-woo person they know. And I have an Aquarius moon, which I've been thinking recently about how that ties me to my Aquarian mom. And she was an artist and rebellious and innovative and a real stand for love and compassion. So I've just been really feeling her in my life. And Britain, we came together through Sam Garcia's Alchemical Business Intensive. And I love so much because, like, for everybody, like, Britain came, I won't tell your side of the story, but my witnessing of your story was you came like the first couple of times, or maybe even only the first time, and then you were off as if you were doing your own hermitage in that course. And we would sort of get glimpses of the magic that Britain was working behind the scenes. And it was so fantastic to feel your presence, even though you were there in sort of these short bursts. And I think it was only actually sometime afterwards. I'm horrible with years. They mean nothing to me. I'm just a very in the present person. So a few years, one, two, I don't know, after that, I came to you again through the podcast, Moon to Moon, then through the Unshaming, then through the Moon to Moon class. And I just sort of got pulled into your world and ended up here. And I think, Britton, some of the reasons is as I came to know you through your work more and more, there's ways you and I have so much in common. We're both building a school. We both left academia. I was all about my dissertation when I left my doctorate in theater. So both arts related backgrounds, and then also we're so different. It's like I'm a Virgo rising, you're an Aries rising. So there was something for me to learn from you. And so I just trusted that and kept saying yes to the next thing, the next thing. And I'm sure I don't even know yet all of the reasons why I'm here, why I'm doing what I'm doing, and why I was a yes to Emergence Astrology. I just kept saying yes to that impulse inside of me. And I do think a little about I was trained in meditation by the magnificent Susan Piver. And one of the things she says is sometimes you choose the form of meditation, and sometimes you choose the teacher, and then you learn the form of meditation they teach. And so I feel like a lot that's how I landed learning emergence astrology is because I had a resonance with you, a missing piece that you had. And this is my access to it is through your work.
Mm. Thank you, Jamie.
Beautiful. My name is Patrick, and I am a Gemini sun, a Virgo rising with a 10th house stellium, and a third house Pluto Scorpio moon. How did I find you, Britton? Um, it was through podcasts, one way or another. I tend to be about 10 years behind technologically. I lived in a gorge in North Carolina for the better part of 7 or 8 years. And there wasn't really a stable internet connection. So I didn't get into podcasts until 2022. And that was sort of how I became obsessed with astrology was through podcasts. Actually I used to finish books before I studied astrology. Now I just read bits and pieces. So anyways, I guess it was really the most pronounced memory of you was on the astrology podcast. But I also got really into Sabrina Monarch's Magic of the Spheres. And so that was a connecting point as well. So the algorithm just put us together. And, when it comes to my yes to year one, it was strange. It happened really fast. And there was equal parts attraction and repulsion. I remember clearly I had been away from the mountains in Western North Carolina for a long time, for 3 or 4 years, which was a long time for me. And I had just been back for the first time. And it was like pouring rain. And I put my girlfriend was passed out in the passenger seat. And I put on your podcast. It was the first time I'd listened to it. And of all things, it was the promo magic. It was why you love promo. And there was something about it. I was like, the whole promo thing and business and marketing, self-promotion, it was so cringy to me. But there was also something underneath it that was really just like it had my full attention. It had like my whole bodily attention. And yeah, there was a lot of conflicting parts warring inside of me. Getting to a yes is a strange thing. I'll just leave it at that.
Thank you. Thank you, Patrick. Um, yeah, I can't remember when I did that one, but I guess it was last spring.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
was spring 2024.
Yeah, and it's been a theme that has been coming up as I've been sitting with your colleagues for these episodes, that the yes to emergence astrology for many felt like it was very somatic. It just felt like a body yes. not
Mhm.
necessarily logical. Um, so yeah, I'd be curious, Amanda and Jamie, how you felt that you came to your yes for Emergence Astrology. Was it immediate? Was it a certain piece of the promo, or do you remember?
I definitely like it really resonates that it was somatic. Like it just felt like such a natural yes. And at that point, we had already begun in Underdog to Diva. And so I don't know. I loved that you were like, I'm building this thing in public. I don't really know what it's gonna look like. Like we're gonna do some stuff in here, but I don't really know. And I just like I have so much respect for that kind of like doing it in public and being really open about this being an experimental space. And I remember in particular the Virgo transmission being such a like, oh yeah, we're getting weird in a way that I loved. I was so here for. I was like, yeah, all right. So I just felt like it wasn't like the yes came through for me like so much of the way you talked about it. Like I know a lot of other folks talked about the gestation period being like such a yes, like that felt so interesting. Like there were just so many elements of it that felt intriguing without like it wasn't something you could even research to get into it because it was kind of this like you're stepping into the unknown alongside you. Yeah, that just felt like really resonant for where I was at that point in time.
Mm.
It's so funny for me when I think about it because I had absolutely no intention whatsoever to study astrology. Like none, like zero. Like in fact, like I'm very open with everybody that I've been doing tarot since I was 16 years old. Like that's just not a thing for me. Astrology always still felt, even though I paid attention to it, felt a little cringy to me, you know? And where my back into astrology was thinking more around the seasons and all that work you did too about the beginnings and the middles and the ends of seasons and the signs handing the work they've done over to the next sign, and this all really appealed to me. And so I but honestly I have a very strong inner compass, and when I get a yes I say yes. I don't think about it very much at all, so I just got a yes, like this is for me, so I signed up.
I think it was the chicken feet that did it for me, Brittany. When you realized you had chicken feet.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like I knew I wanted that we would eventually get to like a real Gemini place of enjoyment at talking together. But the initiation of the Hermitage, like the visuals on it were very like deep woods, Baba Yaga, like weird hybridity. It was like smelly and dirty, and like there was something gnarly that was trying to be spoken about how we initiate this.
Mm.
And it almost feels like that was like the cardinal, that's the cardinal of Emergence Astrology as a 3-year program to me, is like this is how we're initiating. It'll
Mhm.
become another thing, but it has to initiate this way. I don't even know if you could put a sign on that imagery, maybe Capricorn. But really appreciate that. And I remember that Virgo transmission. It felt like these like little dwarfy underworld beings were like trying to tell me about Virgo. That was weird.
It was weird. I loved it. I saw, like, I could see it. Like, I was like, oh yeah, the elves, they are
The
doing their
elves, yeah,
thing.
they like sing together.
Yeah. Yeah, it was awesome.
See, but this is what I love about emergence astrology. This is what I love is this personal encounter that we have with the signs and the planets. And I think this is like, from my understanding, this is a part of the reason why the Hermitage also makes sense, is in that rooted in that philosophy you have of like, this is our own gnosis. This is our own lived experience. This is our own field work, is to see what does it feel like for me? What's the experience of this energy for me? And then, so this is one of my favorite aspects of emergence astrology that just keeps me here and keeps me coming back, because I could spend time with Jupiter all day, or like thinking about this spring, like, ooh, what's Gemini spring energy and what's my encounter with that? It makes my creative mind and my imaginative mind very, very happy. And my mystical mind. Like, this for me is this has absolute resonance with my spirit and how it understands the world and always has, you
Hmm.
know.
Yeah.
And from like, I totally agree with you, Jamie. And I do feel like it's one of the big differences about emergence astrology versus other ways of learning astrology, which feels very like memorization oriented. It
Mhm.
feels like sky math. It feels like there is an answer that, the stars are going to tell you. And I like, when I was reflecting on how does emergence astrology feel really different for me, I was feeling into how it's about this uncertain place. Like, it's really about having, to your point, these personal encounters where you're like, okay, here's this thing. How is it showing up for you today? How are you bumping up against it today? What is it teaching you today? Um, as like a way of engaging over time and building a body of experiences with these concepts rather than learning about them like from the head. Like, that feels like really like old schooling grading. And I feel like that's what like a lot of people, and especially with your focus on unshaming too coming through here, Britain, like I do feel like it is such a relief to be in a space where it's like, yeah, it turns out none of us have the answers. We're all just like, or there's just like infinite answers. Like, we're all just bumping up against this thing and coming to our own experiences and hearing about other people's experiences bumping up these against these things. It like dislodges this sense of answers, that there's a right way to do this, that there is like a set way, that I think can be very prevalent in like um the way a lot of people talk about astrology publicly. It's weird. It's somatic. It's like, I really do feel it as this like bumping up against these different planets and concepts and people.
Yeah, I feel like it really strikes a beautiful balance in the sense that if there's so some attempts at objectivity remove the human soul from the whole equation, from the whole process of like building a relationship with astrology, because there's studying astrology, but then there's also the deeper component of building a relationship. And so a relationship without intimacy or the personal component, like what's the point? And at the same time, there's other kinds of astrology that are so like subjective in the sense of like it just like it falls apart. If it doesn't have any objectivity at all, if it doesn't honor tradition or the craft at all, it just sort of falls apart and becomes a bunch of people talking over each other. And so in emergence astrology, I feel like it just strikes a beautiful balance between the two because it does honor tradition and it does hold true that the craft is sacred, but it's also open to something new that wants to come through. And I've been reading a little bit, rereading a little bit of Alice Sparkly Cat, And I feel like this is really prevalent. This is relevant. Um, the sense that we live in a superiority culture, right? And it manifests itself in a billion ways. Like white supremacy is just like one form, right? It's just one head on this monster. And it's inside of all of us. And it's this attempt to feel like secure or to gain self-worth through being better or something like that. It's a very human thing. And I'm getting at this because it's a sense of like this purity culture, this element of like superiority that sort of infests everything. And astrology is not outside of that realm, you know? So there's this superiority culture that can really get infested into astrology. And so yeah, I want something new. I mean, if you want to see the inside of your head, all you have to do is keep your eyes open. So we're always going to be seeing things through the filter of our own biases and our own distortions. And emergence astrology, I feel, is attempting to be very loving about those distortions, but to bring them more out in the open, and so that we can emerge into something new. And in these times, we most assuredly need something new.
Related to that, I found it so healing the way you talk about, Britain, the like we are all 12 signs. It's like we are all the things. And so this is a lens through which we can transform, heal, recognize, transmute, and also to build better understanding that we are all those things. And so it really, all of that is also really in line with my values, which is also one of the reasons I find this such a powerful place to be. And I just want to say also too, Patrick, I so agree with you about the beautiful balance between the freedom. Like we're always, I love, and then in our on my own, and then in our small groups, putting something in the center of the table, sort of and saying, "So, what do you see?" And then gaining all this insight from each other, and also. Britton, it's really an interesting thing to have this really open, like you say, interrupt me, like just talk, like we just want to have this conversation. And paired with what still feels like an intellectual rigor, like the questions are deep, the framework is strong. And that's what allows us to have that kind of freedom and messiness and experimentation within the space.
I love to hear that. Thank you. Yeah. Um, Emergence astrology, like year one, is like it's been an experience of knowing that I'm doing something, but not knowing what I'm doing. I really love hearing it come through you, since I just feel like I'm moving towards a thing that I'm not, there's not going to be a time where I arrive to it, probably. This is okay. But together we're at something is what it feels like. And I really include my pre-naming myself that students as well, because I feel like my classrooms have always had the feeling, my astrology classrooms feel like the spring salon in the spirit of them. Yeah, I was feeling into this today that like the high sensation of holding in one hand just such a deep desire not to be the one that has the answers, and want to be a guide for you and anyone who comes into the field to be looking within themselves, and then bringing the data to the room. But on the other hand, just feeling like, but there is something here that is wanting my conviction around, you know what I mean? Like conviction, like this full moon of Sagittarius. But it's hard to put the finger on it. And I really appreciate, Patrick, you bringing in this kind of monster, because I feel like this picture of this monster with the many heads, with, you know, the white supremacy head being part of it, it does feel like whatever this is a way to be in an encounter with that monster within and without.
It seems like astrology itself is it's just culture making. It's how culture gets made. I feel like that's what we're doing as astrologers, is we're sort of like at the center of culture, but also at the edge, like making new culture, making new stories, and using old ancient frameworks, like always ancient, always new.
Yeah, in part because I think it's astrology as a larger framework is working with polarity and working with contrast, and like I think that that's like so valuable because it's like, okay, at what point are we butting up against an edge here? Okay, what happens if we actually start to dissolve that edge a little bit? What new possibilities start to become true? Because to your point, I think these monsters, the reason why people keep participating in them is they feel certain, they feel clear. There's a lot of complexity in this world. We don't necessarily have a lot, we're not taught to have a lot of tolerance for that discomfort of uncertainty. And so I feel like, you know, if you're practicing astrology in a way that's constantly exploring, okay, where's the edge now? What edge am I coming up against? And knowing that that's something that can be, I don't want to say negotiated, but like that there's other ways of approaching that edge, and seeing other people approaching that edge in different ways is, I feel like this feels like so Libra rising to me. I'm like, yeah, it's when stuff comes up against each other is when we learn. Like, but yeah, I really think that it's like that's how you find the names for things, is when you're coming up against the edges of them and you're like, oh, okay, turns out there's maybe space beyond this thing that I know.
That naming thing sent me somewhere, because one of the things Emergence Astrology taught me that I did not know was, well, a lot of things, but was that I'm a mystic. Because I was like, what? Like that language, no, Emergence Astrology is a mystical path. And there was a lot during the Hermitage about mystical. And I'd be like, I do that. I do that. I do that. That's how I look at the world. That's how, but it never occurred to me to use that language to describe myself or what I do. So that was a fascinating reflection back, that was unexpected and very fascinating. And it makes me about that certainty. And just going back to that for one second, I was really just thinking about it is only in breaking up certainty that anything can emerge, you know. And here we are. Emergence is central to what we're learning, holding, experiencing, and even taking a stand for in doing this work.
I want to bring something in that I'm like, oh, it feels a little uncomfortable too. So I'm like, well, game on.
Do it.
That the term mystic doesn't really resonate with me.
Mm.
So, and I want to mention that because I feel like folks listening to the podcast might be like, well, that's not a term that resonates with me either. I just want to say that like you can gain I hold out for a possibility beyond what that term is that I haven't yet found that feels right for me. And there's still things to learn despite not being like fully in on a thing, you know, like you don't have to call yourself an astrologer and you don't have to call yourself a mystic and you don't have to call yourself these things to participate in and contribute and really feel like that's something that I feel like I've really gotten out of this is a sense of like my perspective in engaging with astrology is really valued by my colleagues. I value like your thoughts on this so much, and it's just been such a beautiful practice to have it like reflected back to me that like your voice is really welcome here. Um, Even though I'm not like fully it, I'm like, I hold out. You know, maybe one day Mystic's gonna feel like the right fit, but like for the moment it's not. So that's okay.
Yeah, there's
I
something
love.
about that word. Um, I do identify with it, but I also, I don't know, I didn't use that word to describe myself until I did join this program. And I've always been pursuing these sort of like visionary worlds. There's something, I don't know what it is. Maybe it's like I have a lot of cringiness around like if something feels too new age to me, then I stay way the fuck away from it, which is like partly why I stayed so far away from astrology for so long. But there is something also about reclaiming a word, you
Mm.
know? There is something about I don't know, maybe a word doesn't feel right because of the associations that have been attached to it for me by based on people that I've encountered who have used it, who maybe I didn't respect or didn't feel had integrity or just maybe just didn't resonate with. There is something about like coming back and reclaiming that word if there's a desire to. And I do desire to bring that word back for myself. Like but I'm still, it's like day by day, you know? It's like some days I wake up, I'm like, I don't want anything to do with that word today.
Not that shirt. Not the right
I
one.
think
I
one of the
love that
things that,
you,
oh, go ahead.
oh, sorry, I love that, just real quick, Amanda, I love that you brought that in though. The fact that the whole point is that we're defining ourselves and that our authority is something that matters and that we can stand by. So I love
Mhm.
that you brought that in because that does seem central to emergence astrology.
Mhm.
I love that so much, and I relate to that too. And I was just thinking about how naming ourselves and how other people respond to us. And like for me, Mystic doesn't have any charge. Like I just recognized it when you said it. I'm like, yeah, I live a path, I live a life, I've made choices that put primacy on mystery and magic and exploration and emerge. Like that's who I am. So it had no weirdness to it to me.
Mhm.
Contrast, I always think back to one time one of somebody I knew said to me, and she was talking about like the kinds of things I do, like tarot and stuff like that. And she said, "How do you handle people thinking you're weird?" And I just looked at her and I said, "I'm weird." Like, I didn't know. Like,
How do you handle that? Wow.
well,
That's amazing. I feel like a really good reel is forthcoming on this.
yeah. Oh,
And it's like, I love this not fitting the word too, because it like it plays with what I think of as a thing in the room with us in emergence astrology, which is like we have to put limits on anything in order to look at it.
Mm.
And all words, all language, you know, is us trying to come to getting to something that we can share together.
mm,
In order, we agree upon words so that we can be together, and understand each other. But they have all limits and limitations, and there are some things that just don't fit words. And it's part of the fun, I think, of learning other languages is when you find words that don't exist in your native tongue, and you're like, yes, I know that feeling. So let me work for it. And I think that like labels like mystic, magician, witch, seer, priestess, shaman, you know, there's so many words for like magical practitioners or magical livers, magical readers. They all have like different nuances and they carry
Mhm.
history and they carry positionality and bias and
Hmm.
they're loaded with a bunch of stuff. To me, it feels like Mystic is the most open, and I think that's why I like it. But I love knowing that you went in anyway, even if it never fit. And I'm actually kind of curious, like how you kind of held the your Amanda-ness with the word being used a lot,
Mm.
without feeling like overwhelmed or by the word.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I don't know. I feel like that it happens a lot when you're engaging with art. Anything that where the word God comes up, I feel like the same thing happens. We've all got different interpretations of what that force is, um, and how best to relate to it. So I feel like to your point, there's this kind of placeholder word we've agreed on, that is for something that is unnameable, right? And I do agree that I feel like mystic is open-ended. And I'm also someone like I work in naming. So like I'm used to navigate, okay, this doesn't quite fit, but like that's cool. That's going to be the placeholder name. All right. That's how I'm able to be in conversation with other people on this topic. Um, and yet, like I do feel like and yet are like very emergence astrology words, like where it's like, yeah, we're just leaving space for like something else. Like there could be something else.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, there's something over culturally that these terms are like they provoke the over cultural
Mhm.
norms. And so I think it at some level it's an attempt at safety, you know, a sense of like protecting one's belonging by I mean, I want to poke the over culture, but also, at what level, Um, this fear around how I'm perceived, which again, this group actually, this is a sense of belonging that does provoke the overculture, but still it runs sort of contrary to a lot of overcultural norms, but still holds the sense of belonging that gives more courage to sort of go against the elements of the overculture that need to be sort of provoked. And yeah, the word God, that's so present with that because it's it's back to that superiority culture. The word God doesn't mean the same thing to me as it does to people who tend to use the word more frequently. It's like you can show me your God if you let me show you my God. Yeah, which is usually not the case. Usually oftentimes they just want to show you their God and they want to make their God your God. And so back to astrology, like Britton, you always say the information is what's coming up. What's coming up for you is the information. That is not separate from the archetypes of astrology. That is actually like the stuff that astrology is made of, is what's coming up inside of me and in my life.
Mhm. Yeah,
So it anchors us in our own experience.
yeah. And Patrick, to your point on belonging, like it feels like such a delicious treat to just show up and be like, this is what's coming up for me, and have that be recognized and accepted as part of I don't want to say the curriculum, but it's like part of our education is learning from each other and like getting to see these things from other people's positions. Like that's I love so much that like, I feel like I've learned so much about folks even just knowing what their rising sign is and how that has informed like, oh, like they're seeing the world maybe through this kind of lens that is different than like my prismatic way of seeing the world. Um, and it just points out that there are differences in the way we're seeing these things, and there is value in how we are all contributing. I keep thinking of this phrase you mentioned at some point, which is divinity fractalized. Like we all just hold a little piece of how we're viewing this, and that by sharing it with one another, we're able actually to see more of what is available. Um, it sensitizes us to different kinds of awareness.
Thank you. Yeah.
I'm just feeling I'm just feeling the sensitivity of that. Like just what a beautiful thing to be here, all of us together. And I hope it's beautiful for you, Britton, just really celebrating the way the work has seeped into our consciousness and the way we're each working it, like the way we're each bringing our own perspective or our own. And this really has been a container, all of your containers are, Britton, that are very open to that. And I'll say, like, Amanda and I were in the same small group, and that was such a treat. And I clearly, like, I felt like, I will say clearly, and then I felt like there's me hedging on felt like the least experienced person in the room. And we would put up somebody's chart. And I was encouraged and felt comfortable saying, I kind of see this. Would this, like, here's what it makes me think. And then get the reflection from the person whose chart it was that, like, oh yeah, this piece that's got a lot of strength for me, this not so much. And then just that conversation being a part of how we understand ourselves and one another. So we've talked a lot about how it helps us understand astrology, right? But in the context of working on it with somebody else, this beautiful meeting place of I'm understanding myself better through this conversation, and I am truly honored to be understanding you better through this conversation.
Yeah, there's like expertise offered, but there's humility. And also, it seems like there's a commitment to this like beginner's mind. So the fact that there's like different levels of engagement or like all different kinds of people who have been studying astrology for different lengths of time, that actually seemed to me to have been one of the strong points. And I'll say real quick also the hermitage component. I think the fact that there was a 9 month hermitage created this excitement to come together, but also more of an ability and willingness to be present to one another.
Mm.
Mm.
Yeah, like we had had enough time to be in our own experience in order to bring it to collaborate with others instead of just like dropping you in, you know?
Mhm.
Thank you. I know we're our time is coming to a close. I've just really, really, really enjoyed this, and I can't wait to re-listen because I feel like the everything that you've been saying is so rich. Like it needs to be experienced again. Thank you for bringing that here. I'd love it if you would share how listeners can connect with you more, and links and things can be in the show notes. So listeners, you can go to those links. Yeah, Amanda, do you want to start?
Sure. I I have amandacaswell.com. So you can always find me there. I'm also on Substack. Let's search for Amanda Caswell on Substack. I am on Instagram and Threads. I am like not the most frequent poster, but like I'm around. Instagram and Threads, I'm at _ Amanda Caswell _ yeah, this has been such a treat. Oh my God. I'm like so glad I could join this.
So great. I feel that too. I'm just beaming at everybody. So you can find me on Instagram. I'm Starshine with a Y. And but all of my work is housed at the School of Creative Magic, and we offer courses that support aspiring, emerging, and established artists, really to help them find a way to find their courage and really express their voice fully, embrace their identity as an artist. And one of the big things I'm doing, I trained as a DJ last year. And so this year we've been adding dancing to the mix. And I'm doing dances on all of the solstices and equinoxes. So coming up soon is the summer solstice. And the event's called Rewilding. And our theme is to live free, to really remember what it's like to be a kid, barefoot, sun-kissed shoulders, just really embracing the spirit of summer. So I'd love if people come over and check that out. If you sign up, we've got really wonderful workshops you get right away about creative practice, and really consider coming to dance with us because it's really fun. It's online, so you can participate from anywhere. And I was going to say you do not have to be a dancer, but I'm telling you all are dancers. And so it's open for everybody, for you to dance your way and really feel free.
Yeah, and you can find me on Instagram at Third House Topics. Shoot me a message. I just love to be in conversation. And my books are open. I'm also offering readings. You can find the links there as well. So please get in touch. I would love it.
Thank y'all so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, how about that, listeners? Thank you so much, Patrick. Thank you so much, Jamie. Thank you so much, Amanda. And thank you, Sydney, for participating in this question. What is Emergence Astrology? I feel closer to it through your voices. So, listener, if you are feeling drawn to join, maybe you've already joined by this point. If you're feeling called to join us, I welcome you to take the leap. It's a leap of the heart. It's a leap of the heart is really what this is. And it's learning to hold ourselves in what Linda Sussman calls that bottomless feeling. The bottomless feeling when we let go from the certainties, the grasps, the attachments for security that we've been holding to, and begin instead to leap. That's from Speech of the Grail. We were just this morning chatting about that. Patrick was there for that one. We had such a wonderful conversation for our last Speech of the Grail meetup. It's our key text in the Magician's Table. It is also all about voice, because it's about being a person who heals and transforms through their speech, which is also your silence, and it's your presence. And really, 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 really powerful book, and full of so much wisdom to weave into your becoming and to live into embodying. Yeah, the hermitage is designed to be a space to have that darkness, that the practice of the bottomless feeling, the practice of being in the dark. And the only way to make the leap is to practice sitting back to receive, is what it feels like to me. We've been so conditioned to go forward constantly, to constantly be moving forward, to be grasping forward, to be reaching forward. And this practice of the hermitage is about creating a new way with astrology, which is also to create a new way with yourself, which is to sit back and receive. Which isn't to say that we don't have any structure, what is needed, and this is probably what the next episode will be on, is creating containment and creating scaffolding within such vastness. We do that for ourselves through ritual. We do it through our pathways. There's a whole section every month of the Hermitage. There's something called the Mystics Pathways, because learning to build your pathway in and your pathway out of all of your practices is how you create scaffolding and how you create structure around so much receptivity and so much vastness. The devotions of the mystic are how we create order within the chaos. It's like we become disciplined wild men, which is like a Caroline W. Casey term of when Saturn is working with Uranus, of being the disciplined wild person of your life, which I see now ever since I first heard her voice. I've been learning to come into my voice and my movement on the planet as a disciplined wild woman. I'm very, very structured and I'm very, very wild. And they've always been going together for me. It's like a parallel pathway. Two horses, reins in both hands. And the Hermitage is designed to help you feel fortified in what that process looks like for yourself, because you cannot be a disciplined wild person unless you are the authority around the discipline. It can't be from someone else being the authority. So part of the process of the Hermitage is getting uncomfortable with maybe not doing everything that I give you, maybe doing little of what I give you. As you learn, what am I saying no to because I'm avoiding my devotions? And when am I saying no? Because that devotional suggestion is not resonating with me. And I'm the one that decides what resonates for me. And only you can hold with yourself to know emergently what the truth is. Because if you're bringing agency and pleasure and delight and curiosity to the no, I just don't want to do that thing that Britain's offering, then that is how you scaffold your authority. It's just unashamed, unapologetic. Who's in charge? I'm in charge. But the wild person does need the devotion. If you don't like disciplined, you can say devotional, the devout, fill in the word that feels exciting. And this whole year one is really about helping you get comfortable being that person who's holding it down for yourself so that you can be in deeper touch with your wild body, like your scent, your fur, your tongue, your fluids, your you-ness, your you-ness needs to come out, and it will feel safe to do that the more you give it the structure. Anyway, that's for the next episode. I'll go deeper. Just having fun talking, just sitting back on a Friday talking, but I'm going to close it out now because there's my discipline. You see how these things work. So I'm going to close it up. Would love to have you. Oh my gosh, we're doing this together. We're really doing this. We are doing this. We wild people. We wild humans. It's very sexy. You know how to enroll, so I think I'm done speaking. Thank you so much. If you love this podcast and you've never left a review, inviting you to do it right now. Thank you so much. Wishing you all the very best. Until the next one, take care.